Okay. All right, it's 7:30 and I'm going to call the meeting to order. And we are meeting electronically pursuant to the emergency order by the governor. And this meeting is also being recorded. So roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton.
Here.
Trustee Dickin.
Here.
Trustee Eastman.
Here.
Trustee Haber.
Here.
Trustee Hollander.
Here.
Trustee Jamerson.
Here.
President Ford.
Okay, first item of business is the approval of minutes for the November 16th meeting. Do I hear a motion?
You want to clarify, you have minutes both for the public hearing?
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. Minutes are both for the public hearing that occurred on the 16th and the regular meeting. Do we need to split those? Or not?
No.
Okay,
Move to approve both
Second.
sets of minutes.
Second.
okay. Is there any discussion? Any questions from the trustees? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Dickin.
Aye.
Trustee Eastman.
Aye.
Trustee Haber.
Aye.
Trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the approval of bills. I think there are a couple items I would just simply draw to your attention. The first is we are paying the Miller Cooper bill, the auditing bill, which is not the full amount that they requested, but an amount that I believe is appropriate considering the activities during the audit. And I think there is some question at this point about the Midwest meter bills. So I would ask for your approval of the bills, condition on sorting out the question on item 221.
So moved.
Oh, sorry, I have a question.
Okay, could I have a second and then we'll have a question?
Second,
Go ahead, trustee Jamerson.
on page 4, I don't know what page it is in the packet, but on page 4, right at the top, there's Village of Deerfield and Village of Lincolnshire, which Deerfield says it's a water purchase, which is believable. I'm not sure what the Village of Lincolnshire is, but if it's water, it says utilities, but if it's water for those people up on the north end of town that are connected to Lincolnshire, shouldn't that be under water and not utilities?
It certainly should. I'm assuming that that's a minimum charge for our emergency connection with Lincolnshire, but in any event, it certainly should be under the water fund.
Okay. We will have that reclassified. Are there any other questions? We've got a motion and a second, so if there are no other questions, roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Dickin.
Aye.
Trustee Eastman.
Aye.
Trustee Haber.
Aye.
Trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Okay, moving on, Treasurer and Finance Committee report, trustee Clayton.
Just 3 quick things. We've made the determination that the ARPA grant that we've received half of now and half next year can be used entirely for revenue replacement. Some ideas we have for the use of the money is the BSNA contract, wages, and then whatever is left over after the revenue replacement, we're going to propose putting in the water and sewer fund. I'm going to be meeting with the mayor on this and we can come up with a recommendation. With regard to the BSNA contract, they're reviewing Attorney Houvard's questions and changes, and we should have a response in the middle of next week. And finally, we're still having some issue on water meter readings. Some are inconsistent, drastically different, or duplicates apparently, but we've developed a pretty solid workaround. So we're working to resolve those issues, but we think we've got it nipped for the time being. That's it.
Trustee Jamerson.
I'm sorry, I'm asking so many questions.
Only two.
Could you Remind me what the amount of that grant was?
440,000.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, moving along, Director of Community Services report, please.
The only item I've got is we had a meeting this morning, the mayor, myself, and Urban Forest. We sent out for bids last week to for the tree survey to 3 contractors to remove the trees. Low bidder was Lucas Trees. I had the gentleman come in the office this afternoon. We finished clarifying everything in his contract, and he's going to have 4 crews of men ready to start January 10th. So I know we're working with Mayor's going to. Pat's already been informed. We're going to have him hopefully help us get a letter merging with the urban forest report, and so we can send that out to all the residents, get that out by Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, and hopefully people can start calling them and we can start the tree removal process. So that was the biggie. We finally put that to bed today. So that's about it.
Trustee Jamerson. That's 3.
I know. I'm sorry. A resident actually contacted me about the tree removal and asked, now that it's winter and you can't tell what the health of the trees are, at least the resident can't tell what the health of the tree is that had been marked for removal. How do we know that, is there any way to appeal the fact that they are asking for a tree to remove? I mean, is that something that we can have them contact Urban Forest, or should they contact Russ, or what do you think the protocol should be?
They can contact, if you'll, after the meeting, you can give us the resident's name, and we'll give you, they can contact Urban Forest Management, and they would be happy to talk to them about the tree. Come out
Okay.
and take another look. Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the trustees? Oh, I'm sorry, Russ, were you finished or no?
No, that's it for now. Everything else is on the agenda. Thanks.
Okay.
Well, if people want to know about the cafe, I think Henry had asked me during the week. And since Sweet Basil's out of commission, the new owner, Rhapsody, is finished. I guess he's finished negotiating. I talked to him Friday. He said things look good. He's moving forward. He ordered a new refrigerant system for the cafe because the owner was no good, and he should have the new one in. He said about 2 weeks it installed, and once he gets that, he'll be ready to open up for business. So that's good news.
That's great news. Thank you for that.
You may want to give them the name of the new business, since we're giving them some free publicity. Yep. There's a new name.
The poached egg.
No, that's the old thing.
Oh, it's a new name?
The poached egg, I think, isn't that?
Yes.
Oh no, I haven't heard that one. Him and I
Didn't know
talked,
that.
but he didn't tell me he was changing the name. I just talked to Ramon, and he was just telling me about how negotiations were going and all the rigmaroles he was going through, and he finally got everything settled. So he said getting the new refrigerant system was his biggest worry at this point. He didn't even discuss the name with me. I just figured it was going to be his old name. So he didn't let me know of anything differently at this time.
Well, we've got a good owner then,
Oh yeah.
and he'll be successful. He'll cross their fingers that he'll be successful, wildly successful.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? Questions for the director? Okay, let's move on to the consultant's report. The attorney's report, please.
Just because there's no other place on the agenda for this to come up, we have received some sketch drawings from Lexington Homes. We have been working with our planner now, Lee Brown at Tesco Associates. He's reviewing the package and is going to interact with them on sort of the first sketch. Their hope had been that we could arrive at a pretty good, feel for what they had to have a kind of a workshop session with the Plan Commission in January. But I won't know until we've really gone through their materials whether that's in the cards or not. We have to kind of see how far along they came, and I know we have suggestions that we'd like to see incorporated. So we'll we'll keep you posted on that. Everything else, I think, is on the agenda.
Any questions? Trustee Haber?
Bruce, do you have any idea what a price point is going to be on that project?
They mentioned it, and I want to say in the 500,000s. Is that Henry? Is that right?
Yeah, they said around 550 to 575.
Thank you.
Trustee Eastman?
Did they also address how they would deal with, affordable housing as part of the proposal? I mean, I think that was something that we had discussed before, and I'm just curious as to how they planned on baking that in.
I initiated some calls to some people in the community, the nonprofit housing community that do this kind of work, and talked with community partners for affordable housing in Highland Park. They are our organization whose work we had looked at the Plan Commission some months before. It turns out that they knew the people at Lexington, and I think I just made a call before the two of them had actually connected, but their model would be a nice one here. They will take for sale units, they will take them into something they call a community land trust, and they would be willing to administer the eligibility criteria and the restrictions on those units in perpetuity. So it's, it's a question of the parties getting together and figuring out if they can have a meeting of the minds as well, but the village would try and facilitate that for sure. So yeah, we have made some initial inquiries about that.
And do we have an idea as to sort of roughly the percentage of units it would be, or of the total?
The village's affordable housing plan, which is modeled on the state goals, elected a goal of 15% of new units to be affordable. Since a tear down and a replacement does not constitute a new unit under the Act, the only time that we've really had an opportunity to even try to meet the goal is with a development that's creating really brand new units, or in a few instances where you have a new house on a vacant lot, that's a new unit, but the new houses, aren't in the range. So if we apply what we have in the affordable housing plan that the village has, it would be 15% of the units would be affordable.
Okay.
Just one other, this is just another data point. The cutoff for what is affordable ranges, there's different ways of handling it. And one model is that some of the units might be, for example, at 80% of median income as a cutoff, and other of the units, the other half, let's say the affordable group, would be at 100 or 120%. You reach different populations, but both of which are shut out of a lot of housing options in the village. So those are topics still to come.
Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion from the trustees? Okay, the engineers report.
We did manage to get all the paving done this year again. There are a few outstanding items, punch list items. And I think I mentioned at the last meeting that some of the restoration we'll revisit in the spring, but the project did get completed. And then as far as the meter upgrade, water meter upgrades go, notwithstanding some of the hiccups we've had with some bad data coming, we are at about 550 of the 900 meters have been upgraded. So that project is moving along, and sometime early 2022, it should be complete. That's what I have.
Are there any questions for our village engineer? Trustee Dickon?
I just have a quick comment for Pat Glenn. First of all, thank you for repaving Glen Dunnan. It was a nightmare to drive on it, but I got a call from the school saying that the school bus got stuck. Just for future projects, I think it might be a good idea to communicate with the schools so that they could plan alternative routes. It was one of those smaller streets where the bus couldn't turn around. They had to back up. It was all the kids came home 30 minutes late. So just something to note for the future.
I appreciate that, and we usually do make contact with the bus companies, so I'll have to investigate why, if and why that didn't happen this time. But that's a valid observation. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
I don't see the village ecologist. I don't believe we have anything for that. So moving on to the Plan Commission, please. Chairman Brightcroft, do you have any report?
I do. The
Okay,
Plan Commission met on December the 2nd. We covered 2 items. The first is that we concluded the public hearing on the application for the Wellness Center at 240 Saunders Road. The Plan Commission recommends approval of remapping the property to the office and research compatible district and expanding the special uses in that district by adding a small sites of less than 1 acre that are medical offices and related health and wellness services and products. So I believe we will have a report for you in the near future. The second item, and this is a bit redundant from what Bruce has already said about the Lexington Homes development. We discussed at some length the proposed Lexington Homes development on the Federal Life property. The Plan Commission strongly supports including affordable housing in that development. We discussed the mechanisms that might be used for maintaining affordable housing at the development into the future. And as Bruce mentioned, the Plan Commission will meet with a nonprofit affordable housing development organization to learn more about these mechanisms and how the process would work. And then we also plan to meet with Lexington Homes informally to learn more about their proposed plans. That's it.
are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, let's move ahead. The ZBA did not meet. Chief, your report?
I only have the police activity that is in the board packet.
Okay. Are there any questions for our chief? Okay, moving on. Strangely, I don't have anything really to tell you right now. So I think it's all on the agenda, or we've talked about it. Are there any visitors wishing to address the board?
Is that where?
Yeah, the chief has gotten an email. Could you please read it for us?
This came into the village.
You're muted. Oh,
I know,
you're
I'm
going
talking
on
to yours,
mine. Right, okay, sorry.
This came into the village just before the meeting from Matthew Katz. The subject is Thornton gas station vote. Hello, resident on Hiawatha Lane. Per your request to contact you prior to the meeting, my concern is that this gas station is in direct opposition to the very words in which the village stands by having a gas station here is absolutely unnecessary. Number one, the village is committed to protecting our oasis of the North Shore. With this in mind, climate change should be at the forefront of consideration for any major decision. This gas station represents the polar opposite of progress. As the village, its residents, and surrounding jurisdictions should pursue more sustainable lives and concentrate on emissions reductions at all costs. The gas station promotes the use of fossil fuels. Number two, there are more than 5 gas stations within a 1.5 radius. Why do we need another? Allow another business to develop that will bring in more tax revenue over a longer period of time. And finally, number 3, per current projections of electric vehicle adoption, gas vehicles will use considerably less over the next 10 years. Why develop something that supports a dying industry? None of this makes any sense. Matthew Katz.
Okay.
Am I allowed to comment on that at all?
Oh, I see you're on. I can see your name. Yes, sir, you can certainly comment on that at this point.
Yeah, well, it sure understood, it should make sense. Apologies for some of the typos. I was trying to get the email out before the meeting so that you could read it. But my main concern for this gas station is that there's just absolutely no need for another gas station. You know, we live in a small community and we're surrounded by gas stations. As I mentioned, there's 4 gas stations or 5 gas stations within a 1.5 mile radius of the majority of the houses in Riverwoods. So I don't really see the need for another. While we all are, as you all well should know by now, if you know you believe in climate change or not, you know, we should be trying to reduce emissions as much as possible. And this gas station obviously promotes the exact opposite of what we should be doing. And as I mentioned also, electric vehicle adoption is increasing by the day. So why should we be allowing a company, a fossil company, to develop when, you know, electric vehicles are going to be, are on the rise continuously? It just doesn't really make that much sense. Yeah, just really doesn't make sense when we're trying to look out for the future of the population and the future of the village. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for commenting. And I think there's an agenda item a little bit later on the under new business, and Attorney Hoovard will give just a brief history prior to talking about those items.
I wonder, Mayor, if you want to have comments directed to that, to come at that point in the agenda, rather than have them bifurcated.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that's up to the chair, you know, it's up to you, but
No, we felt obligated because of the comment, the letter, and this is when we would read those kinds of things. But we have Mr. Katz's comments, and I think we'll just get back. If there are any comments of a similar nature, there is an item on the board's agenda, and we can do a little short history of that. I think will help clarify some of that at that point. That makes sense to everybody? Okay, are there any other visitors wishing to address the board? Okay, new business. The first three items under new business are tax ordinances. First one is the ordinance for the levy of taxes for the village of Riverwood for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2021 and ending December 31, 2021.
I have three short changes, if I
Okay,
can, before we go through with them. This ordinance is the village's annual tax levy ordinance. The board had a public hearing, a truth and taxation hearing in November to describe the proposed increase that's reflected in this ordinance. On the first page of the ordinance, in section 1, there's a reference to a column with the 2021 tax levy. It should say 2021 tax levy. That's page 25 of the packet. It's right before the columns start. The levy amount is shown in the right column opposite the police department line item. The levy amount is $988,800. The column on the left are the aggregate subtotals of the main funds of the village from the appropriation ordinance. So you can see that basically all the activity of the general fund is being funded from the one levy. It's in the right column. Besides that correction, the other one correction I have is on page 28 of the packet. We've gone through the process of contacting each of the SSAs to find out if they wanted a maintenance levy. I had left a placeholder for SSA 33 of $4,500, but learned yesterday, last night, that they would like to have a levy of 0 for this year as a maintenance levy. So that amount for SSA 33 would be 0. And all of the other SSA levies, to the best of our ability, follow the requests of each of the SSAs. Those are my comments.
okay. Are there any questions? Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a
You
second?
need a motion for first waiver of first reading. I'm
Oh, I'm
sorry.
sorry. Okay. Motion for first reading and approval.
No, to waive first reading.
Waive first reading. I'll get it.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions other than why I can't get that straight? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
Trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Thank you.
And we'll get there.
They won't get the buzz.
Move for second reading and adoption.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Ordinance 211226.
Okay. Moving on to the second item, this is a tax ordinance abating the 21 tax levy for $644,000 in special service area number 26, special tax bond series 2013 of said village. Do I have a motion for first reading?
To waive first
Waive
reading.
First reading.
Well, moved. So moved.
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Jamerson,
Guess I picked the wrong night to be the first in the box. Huh? Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Just because we have a number of people listening, I just want to indicate what the purpose of this ordinance is before you have a motion for second reading and adoption. We have two SSAs that issued bonds some years ago. The construction cost came in a bit less than we had estimated. We had some extra funds on hand, which go to further secure the bonds because those funds were provided by the bank to purchase the bonds. But we worked out an arrangement with the bank so that we can gradually abate the property tax levy that's remaining during the life of the SSA bonds and use up that surplus that's in the project fund. And so this ordinance and the next one go to that effect. It's the same amount each year for a number of years. By the time that the SSA bonds are paid off, the residents will have enjoyed a reduction in taxes for 5 or 6 years. And the excess money that we had used from the project fund as it makes up the difference. So that's what the purpose is.
Thank you.
Move for second reading and adoption.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Okay, the
That
next,
is, sorry, ordinance 211227.
okay. Moving on, next item is an ordinance similar to the last one, abating the 2021 tax levy or $60,000 for special service area number 27, special tax bond series 2014 of said village. Would you like to make any
Move
comments?
to waive first reading.
That's good. Second, okay. Are there any
Second.
comments before we go further? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Move for second reading and adoption.
Thank you.
Second.
Are any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Ordinance 211228.
Okay, next item is an ordinance amending the village fee schedule to add certain license fees. Attorney Huvard, would you like to?
We recently approved a couple of new uses at the shops. And especially for the video gaming operation, we decided that there would be fees for licenses. So this ordinance would amend the current village fee schedule and include the licenses that the board discussed. Turns out, we looked at Hoffman Estates, Hoffman Estates was the example that was frequently cited by the applicant for their fees, and we've matched those. They broke them down between each terminal, which had a separate license fee, and I think you remember they were going to have 6 terminals in the premises, and then an annual fee for the operator, the person who is in charge of the premises during the year and is responsible for ensuring compliance with our ordinances. So those 2 amounts are there. Also, you'll notice the tobacco store license. And then we added licenses for the new liquor licenses that I realize maybe this ordinance could have come later in the agenda, but each of these licenses, different liquor licenses, would need a fee. Our standard fee is $3,500, except where wine and beer only is served. We had another limited liquor license where we reduced it from $3,500 to $2,500. So these fees also follow what we have in the current fee schedule for the other liquor licenses.
Is there any discussion? Trustee Haber?
Is there any reason that we need to push this along? I mean, do we need to waive the first reading, or is this, we have plenty of time with regard to this?
Except for the fact that one of our convenience store operators wanted to get a liquor license right away. I mean, I don't know if it would matter between now and December 21, Mayor.
I move that we waive first reading.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Move for second reading and adoption.
Do I see a second?
Second.
I'll second. Okay.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Ordinance 211229.
Okay, I think before, I'd like to have the village attorney before the next 2 ordinances, perhaps give a short history behind them, if that makes sense.
Well, I'll try and provide at least the context, yes, of what we're acting on tonight or being requested to. And by the way, we're recommending that we only have first reading on these ordinances tonight. There are some details to them, but let me just back up and explain why these are ordinances, of course, items E and F that pertain to the potential approval of a automobile service station and convenience store on the village-owned parcel. The mayor asked that I go back and take a look at some of the timeline in terms of how we got here. You know, and some of you were on the board, been on the board when all of this was happening. We, after we bought the site from Terrico and after lockup, now CubeSmart was built, the village board spent some time trying to find the appropriate use for that site. We went out with an RFP in 2016. We actually formed a real estate committee on the board. We had 3 people who responded to the RFP. We selected one of the 3 developers, and they thought they could get a Starbucks or a coffee shop or use like that. We worked with them for a period of time, and it turned out that because of the road improvements that had to be made, the access issues to the site, that it didn't have full access, and the cost on the site itself, comp storage and other costs, these smaller uses couldn't afford to pay the village anything. And in fact, in a number of cases, we're asking the village not only to provide the land for free, but to subsidize the operation. And that would have required the village to actually perform the road improvement work to get them full access. So nothing happened with that effort. We kept trying. We re-engaged with one of the respondents on that RFP process. Some of you might remember Clark Street Realty. And for a period of time, we asked that group to try and work with us to find an appropriate user for the site. They showed us a list of potential uses. The board looked at it and thought that some of them might be worthwhile. But again, the same issues came up with access to the site, the looming work by the county, the road improvements. So in the summer of 2019, we have been getting contact from groups interested in an automobile service station, a gasoline station on the site. I think the board looked at the combination of factors from Woodman's Market having been developed, the inability of any other market type use to develop that was driven by the market, and also the concern over where our budget was going and the potential benefit of a gas station. I can't speak entirely for all the arguments and points of view that were expressed, but the board did make a decision in 2019 to put out another RFP asking specifically for a gasoline service station. We had two competing offers. The current party that's the petitioner in the zoning matter, GMX Real Estate, they were the winning bidder. They offered $1.4 million for the site, and were willing to undertake substantial road improvements several years ahead of when the county would do them. We negotiated with GMX through the fall of 2019 and signed a redevelopment agreement in March of 2020. The Board of Trustees, by ordinance, authorized the execution of a redevelopment agreement, finding that it was consistent with the TIF district in which the site was located and would further the goals of the redevelopment plan. Since then, GMX has been working to come forward to the village with a complete set of site plan, engineering, and all the normal development submittals that is required. The redevelopment agreement that we have with GMX requires that they do this. This is a contractual obligation that they come to the village to meet their obligation, which is to develop the site. And in the redevelopment agreement, the village undertook to consider and reasonably approve the submittals as long as they comply with all the normal and customary ordinances that we have that govern this kind of development. In other words, we knew that the site had to be rezoned or amended, the zoning on it had to be amended. And we can't just in a redevelopment agreement grant that zoning, but we anticipated that they would come through the process in a normal way and be granted that zoning in order that they could continue the mission under the redevelopment agreement that the parties agreed to. So the ordinances that are here tonight are confusing because it appears as if the village is actually considering this for the first time, and certainly it's up for, matters can be up for vote. So it seems as if the decision is fresh. And I know that personally, there are people who would like the village to completely reconsider the decision afresh or opposed to the decision the village board made in 2019 and in 2020. As a legal matter, I would only say that we have an agreement, a contractual agreement with the developer. They're coming into the village in part to perform what their duty is under the agreement. The village can decline to grant the zoning and would be, unless it has a proper reason to decline the zoning, would then be in breach of the agreement. And we could talk about what that would mean. But from a legal standpoint, what is before the village is what we anticipated and basically planned for in the redevelopment agreement. It's to those who are opposed in any form to having a gasoline service station, that doesn't really answer their objections or questions. But I just wanted to point out that this is here before the village board tonight as part of a sequence of events that was put in train a couple of years ago. The two ordinances that are up for first reading then, one is to amend our zoning code to allow for the possibility of an automobile service station in a mixed-use plan development. The site where this gasoline station would go as part of a mixed-use plan development, which was approved for CubeSmart, but the entire tract is considered part of the mixed-use plan development, which is 3.75 acres. So some years ago, when the board in the past had approved gasoline stations for BP Amoco and then for Shell, an automobile service station was listed as an allowable use in a mixed-use plan development. We later took it out during our differences with the former developer. But in order for an automobile service station to be included in this mixed-use plan development, it needs to be reflected in the zoning code itself. And so the first ordinance reestablishes that as a potentially allowable use in a mixed-use plan development. The second ordinance then amends the special use that was granted, well, to lock up, but now CubeSmart. The reason is that the special use is intended to govern the entire mixed-use plan development, which has 2 lots. And in the original special use ordinance, we referred to the lot that CubeSmart occupies, it's lot 2, and the lot that the automobile service station will go on is lot 1. So there is a mechanism to amend that ordinance to adjust the uses on lot 2 or lot 1, as long as they are consistent with the mixed use plan development regulations. So the second ordinance is an amendment to the original special use ordinance we granted to CubeSmart that primarily deals now with what can happen on lot 1. Back in the day when we approved for CubeSmart, lot 1 was slated simply for village uses, open land, public uses. We didn't have another use in mind at the time. So the amendment to the special use would make clear that lot 1 is now authorized for an automobile service station. And just as we did with CubeSmart, the authorization has a number of conditions, limitations, restrictions, the list of project documents that governs the development, site plan, photometrics, grading plan are all referenced and are made a part of the ordinance. In part because of the evolution of those documents and the need to really fine tune them and get them right, we've decided we're not ready for anything but a first reading tonight. Some of the underlying plan documents are evolving somewhat. We're looking at the signage and lighting a little bit further. I mean, I can show you, and I could take you through the ordinance in a little bit more detail if you'd like. You haven't had it that long, so as a first reading, maybe I just leave it at that. Mayor, whatever you'd like.
Okay, are there any questions from the trustees? Do I
move
have a
for
motion?
First
Oh, sorry.
reading, move for a first reading of an ordinance amending the provisions of Article B of Chapter 5 of the Riverwood zoning ordinance.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on our first ordinance having to do with the zoning? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I hear a motion for first reading for the ordinance amending the special use?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor, I just think at this point, if before you have a roll call vote on this first reading, since we had people that might have wanted to speak on this matter of the agenda, this might be the time to invite any further comment.
Okay, I will do that. Try to scroll through here, and there are a lot of videos that are off, so I can't, I don't see
I
anybody.
guess if you ask anybody if they want to address the board to turn on their video and raise their hand, that might help.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not, okay. Seeing none and hearing none, then I will call roll call, please.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
I see Laura Millman with a hand up on the screen.
Oh. Okay, do you want to unmute and
Yeah.
open your video, please?
Now, do you want to speak for me?
Go ahead.
Hello. I just wanted to raise the issue of the Thorntons not having electric chargers. I don't think should be something that, I think it should be required that they have a charging station, electric charging station at their facility. And I would like to have somebody revisit that.
Attorney Huvard, I believe that has been discussed with them.
There's language in the ordinance that says that to the extent there's demand for charging stations, they will have space to provide them. And the text amendment encouraged in the sense that it said that an automobile service station that converts from gasoline pumps to electric chargers would still be deemed an automobile service station. I don't think any of the ordinances mandate that they install a specific number of chargers at the beginning. Their testimony at the Plan Commission was that they would look at demand, and as soon as they felt there was enough demand, they would certainly put them in. They showed us where they had room on the site plan to do it. But the board can, think about this further before we take this up again in a couple of weeks, or we have representatives from the developer and from Thornton's available if the board wanted to probe on this question further.
Yes, the issue was we were at the Plan Commission meeting when they brought this up, so I'm familiar with what they were talking about. And they did say that they would have bays or spaces available for future development of electric site. I was wondering if the village could require them to actually put those in under the theory of build it and they will come, rather than wait for the demand and then build it later.
Trustee Hollander. Trustee
Uh,
Hollander, I think I saw your name.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we make this a requirement, but if one did that, would that mean that the other gas stations within the village would have to be held to the same standard, or could we make an exception for this one gas station only?
I think
Is
for
that-
the.
No, that's a
Okay,
question.
sorry. Go ahead, sorry.
I don't know that we'd have to do it for all the gas stations. This particular applicant is asking for a particular relief. Although I will say that this particular topic wasn't discussed in the redevelopment agreement. We did have a sort of agreed upon site plan that we're working with. So I think we would have to discuss it further internally and then with the developer about actually requiring it at this moment, but we can take it up if there's a desire to do that.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
absolutely, thanks. Mhm.
Is there anyone else? Trustee Dickon?
I just have a comment, and I'm certainly not speaking on behalf of the developer, but typically, if you have an electric vehicle, you'll be charging it at home, or you'd be stopping at, somewhere where you've got at least 20 minutes to so-called fill up your tank. So that's why you'll see, electric charging stations at, shopping malls, like at an IKEA or a Costco or a Sam's Club. If you're just stopping to, at a quick convenience store, you really will need to hang out there for more than a quick 5 minutes to recharge your vehicle if you're really running low. So just kind of something to keep in mind as to perhaps why they haven't made this a requirement in terms of putting an electric charging station in right away. So technology still kind of needs to evolve in order to make fueling more efficient. That's all I had.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think just anecdotally, I know across the street at Woodman's, they have, I don't even know how many along their eastern wall. There's, I don't know, I'm going to guess maybe 10. Okay. And I rarely see more than 1 or 2 vehicles there plugged in. And that's obviously a much more suitable location to the extent that someone's going to plug in there, go inside and go grocery shopping for a half hour and then come out and be charged. So I tend to concur with trustee Deacon.
Chairman Brightcroft, did you have your hand raised?
I do. Nevertheless, there is almost always at least one car being charged at Woodman's, and a lot of gas fueling is opportunistic. Somebody will be passing by, they'll need a charge if they have an EV, and they will find a place that they can do it at Thornton's. So I don't think it should be discounted.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
I don't know how to raise my hand.
I see a name, Victoria Eisenstein.
Yes, this is Matthew Eisenstein. I have a question. One of the problems I have with the development going along the Milwaukee corridor and down Deerfield Road is the aesthetics of what you're putting in there. The Q building is a pretty unattractive building with barely no landscaping. The landscaping that was supposed to be done at the shops of Riverwoods has not been maintained. Nothing's been replaced. I'm opposed to the gas station, but I'm hearing it's basically a done deal. Can we do something to make the aesthetics better? I mean, Bannockburn and Lake Forest have been able to build buildings that sort of fit into the community as opposed to looking like prison buildings or block houses. They have cedar roofs, they have various things that they do, and they have decent landscaping that makes them fit more into the community. You come across the river and you get past the nursing home, and it's stark and it looks worse than Dempster and Skokie with the buildings that are out there. Is there anything that can be done as part of the ordinance to make at least the Deerfield roadside more aesthetically pleasing as people come and leave our community?
I think there's something we can certainly talk to them about, and there is a landscaping plan that is required to be submitted.
But once again, the problem I have is there was a landscaping plan for the shops of Riverwoods, and it hasn't been enforced by the village. The village has been very lax at insisting that they be maintained and replaced when things die, and fences falling apart, and it's in disrepair. It's if you're going to force this upon this side of the community, I would at least like to have something more aesthetically pleasing to be near and pass by every day. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. David Schimber.
Thank you, Mayor. I would 100% agree with those points. I think, having been part of the Plan Commission around the cube storage time, I know what we planned there from a aesthetic environmental perspective was effective, but never implemented or never effectively maintained, to the previous speaker's point. I think it's incumbent on us, if we're going to sacrifice, and certainly don't support going ahead with petroleum industry gas station at this point in time where it's oversupplied in the area. But if we're going ahead with this anyway, I think we owe it to the community to make this look and feel like a native prairie restored like it should. And there seems to be, per the latest numbers given to us from Thornton's, significant dollars that if Thornton's doesn't do it, then the village should do it. I mean, this is really, as I've said many times, this is the entrance from the west to the east, where people first encounter Riverwoods. And there should be an impression of what Riverwoods is all about, what we've all committed to from an ecological maintenance perspective, a woodland protection perspective. The other thing I would add to Trustee Delkin's point is that there are rapidly emerging chargers. We're not looking for 10. They showed 2. But, you know, if someone's on their way and they're running low on electricity and they can get a 10-minute charge that gets them a quarter of a quote unquote tank filled, then why not? I mean, and we should be, I think we should be asking Thornton's to put in technology that's rapid charging technology and keep it to 2. Now, we don't need 10 as, you know, as Trustee Haber mentioned in Woodman's, we, you know, 2 would be at least talking to the community and to our commitment to future technology that I think is incumbent on us to consider seriously. So that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other comment? Are there any other questions? Give everybody a minute here. I'm not seeing any other comments. I appreciate the comments on landscaping and enforcement, truly. Those will be taken to heart. Anything else on this topic? Okay, let's move ahead to the next item on the agenda under new business. An ordinance establishing the Class L liquor licenses in the Village of Riverwoods.
So not only the new service station, if it's approved in the next meeting, but the existing station, the mobile station, was also interested in being able to have a liquor license. We divided the liquor licenses up between a limited license, which is beer and wine only, and a full convenience store license, which is not limited. And then the conditions for both of them are listed there. And I think that, you know, one of the requirements is not to sell anything between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m. on any given day, you know, to avoid, they're open 24/7. I think these changes were okay with Thornton's. Looking at you, Andy, I think they were okay. If not, I'm looking at the display case. The idea was, and then we looked at some of the ordinances of our nearby communities, limit the amount of area that's devoted to wine and beer. So that's what this would do, is establish the basis for each of these kind of liquor licenses.
Trustee Haber.
When I reviewed this liquor license, I was just thinking, would it be better and would it be consistent with the redevelopment agreement if we limited the display area to 10% of the retail space as opposed to 10% of the total square footage of the building?
That'd be probably better.
Can we maybe amend that to include that change?
Sure.
Would that be for both L1 and L2?
That's what I would suggest, yes.
Certainly. Whomever is listed as ASG, I'm sorry.
That's Andy Goodman from GMX.
Oh, Andy, yes. Okay.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Andrew Goodman, principal with GMX Real Estate Group. We had done this calculation with the Thornton's folks, and we have a representative of Thornton's on the meeting tonight, Phil Boldick, if there are any questions. But when we did the calculation, I believe it came out to 440 square feet based on the gross building area, which was acceptable. If we're looking to modify that, we'll want to take a look at that square footage to make sure we're comfortable that we can live within that reduced square footage. I know that the 440 square feet was fine. Anything less than that, we'll have to take a look at.
Chris, can you just address a reminder about not using the chat box?
Yes, this is a public meeting and the chat box is inappropriate use and will not be responded to. Trustee Jamerson?
Well, go ahead, Mike, you can ask your question first.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it would probably be nice to know what the difference would be between 10% of the retail space and 10% of the building is, so that we would know what that delta is and we can make a more informed decision. Because if 10% of the total square footage is like 20% of the retail space, I would be not real happy with that. Because I'm looking at this as the wine and beer area being kind of an incidental area towards the entire convenience store, products displayed.
To that point, Trustee Haber, I guess the comment about retail space, the front of the cooler, from the front of the cooler back, I don't know, do you consider that retail space or not? I mean, it's where you store the beer. The bathrooms aren't retail space. The office isn't retail space. You need some footprint for coolers and the other mechanics for that. So I would like to know what the difference is between the two numbers and how they're calculated, but I'm not sure I would be willing to limit that to the retail space as opposed to the building square footage.
Maybe what we should do is, I know it will delay us being able to issue a liquor license for 2 more weeks, but why don't we do this as a first reading? We can get that information if that's okay with everyone and have the information for you at the next meeting.
Is that agreeable to the trustees?
I'll make a motion for a first reading of the ordinance adding Class L liquor license.
Second.
Okay. Discussion, roll call.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Okay. Now we're into the rest of this agenda should be pretty easy, I would hope.
I move that we waive first reading of an ordinance authorizing the sale of surplus personal property.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Move for second reading and adoption.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Okay, got it. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Ordinance 211230.
All right, moving on to old business.
This
First-
ordinance, yes, the board.
Yes, go ahead,
The
please.
board had a first reading of this ordinance, and we waited to adopt it because amendments to published codes and published codes in general require 30 days to be on file at the village before we enact them into law. So it's up for second reading and adoption tonight.
Anybody want to make a move for,
I make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Riverwoods Village Code by revising specific amendments to the 2018 International Residential Code, amending ordinance number 190916 and repealing ordinance number 1046.
Second.
is there any discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Needs an ordinance number.
Thank you. Ordinance 211231.
Old business, last item of old business, approval of the audit settlement agreement with North Shore Gas. There were some questions, and I believe those have been answered. Attorney Hubbard.
Well, they were answered in the communication we provided, that basically we're not precluded from auditing back to the beginning of January 1, 2022, or actually at the beginning of whatever the date was in their, the end of their audit period. So we can't commence the audit right away, but once we start the audit after the 2-year period, we can go back to the beginning of time. So I
Well, we
think,
can't go back to the beginning of time. We can go back to December 31, 2020.
yes. So they clarified that to us. I think, Trustee Haber, I think you were okay with.
Yeah,
the
I
explanation.
reviewed it again, and the effective date or effective release date was the operative language, and it's consistent with the concept that we can still, collect in the event that there's a amount that's due from January 1, 2021 to the present.
Okay, hearing that, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Jamerson,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to committee reports. Start with legal and police. Trustee Haber, please.
We had our first meeting with the first meeting regarding the new police contract with our council and representatives of the police department and their council. I think it was a interesting meeting where each side presented their, well, I think the police side presented their demands, and we considered those demands and have not yet responded. There'll be another meeting scheduled where we'll be doing a more formal response, and the negotiations will continue. That's all I have.
Any questions? Okay, communications. Trustee Dickon.
All right, can you hear me? Okay,
Yep.
I think you can. Okay. Well, I think the biggest news is that the village's application for the riverwoods.gov domain has finally been approved, and the domain has been granted to us. So we're currently in the process of setting up hosting for the new website, and new email addresses with the riverwoods.gov extension will also be set up soon. As I've mentioned before, anyone who currently has a village email address will be assigned a new address, but all emails that are going to be sent to the old or current address will still be received and routed to the new addresses that you will be issued. So you're not going to need to check multiple mailboxes. And as we get closer to the transition, I'll be sending out an email with a memo with instructions, as well as some general best practices and guidelines on email usage. As for the website itself, we're actually in the final stages of content migration, and the village's administrators, website administrators, along with myself, we've gone through a first round of basic training yesterday. We're scheduled to go through advanced training coming this Friday. And I must say that, content management with this new tool is significantly simpler. It's a lot more intuitive, and the village staff has come to just a lot more intuitive than what the village staff has come to experience with WordPress, which is what we're currently using. As of today, about 70% of the content has been reviewed, cleaned up, reorganized, and migrated. And if we keep moving at this pace, we're going to be in good shape by early January, if not before that. I also wanted to note that the village clerk, the chief of police, and the mayor's assistant, they've been exceptionally helpful in this transition. And I'm hoping that the site will be ready to be demoed to the board, hopefully by next board meeting. That's all I've got for now.
Thank you. It's a very big project, and it looks great. I mean, I think it's really going to be a big difference and more helpful. So thank you. Thank you very much for all your time on that one.
Of course.
Next, building utilities and stormwater. Trustee Jamerson, please.
The building permit report is in the packet. Just of note that we have bounced back to our permit fees as related to 2019 year to date. They're about double what we had last year, which is not a surprise, but we're back to 2019. The volume, the value is down, but that's because we had a lot of commercial work done in 2019, and now we're doing a lot of residential work. So that's going to bounce back up next year, assuming Lexington Homes gets started with their project sometime in 2022, along with anything else that happens in the village. So that's all good news. And that's all I have right now to share.
Any questions or comments for trustee Jamerson? Okay, Woodlands and Ecology, trustee Eastman.
Sure. The one thing to report is I am still working on the draft of the Village Hall and the Flatwoods campus use policy, and I hope to have something to share, at least ideas on that shortly. The question I have for you, Mayor, is Trail Tales. Where do we stand with that? I was out of the loop for a while and.
Good timing. Good timing.
Excellent.
Today, we received the Trail Tales signs. And Jackie Borchu is going to take a look at those, I think on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, and walk through and maybe even actually get the things put up. We've also received the ecological signs for the Flatwood Center. So those are all the signs that are out there that I'm aware of that need to be installed on the Flatwoods Heritage Center. So good timing on that. So I've almost got them erased from my whiteboard.
By the time winter hits, right?
Yeah, they're almost off the whiteboard.
Yes.
So
and that's it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for asking. Land use and roads, trustee Hollander.
No report.
I don't know if that's good or bad. The next item is finance and economic development. Trustee Clayton, please.
No report.
This is, now we're cruising. There's no need for executive session. Are there any other comments from the board on any of the items that we've had? Anything you'd like us to look forward to? Anything from the board? Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for December 21st at 7:30. I assume this will also be Zoom. Oh, before I leave, we've got the appreciation luncheon tomorrow, and we're making every effort to have good spacing and mask wearing until you sit down. So we're hoping, we think we've got about 20 folks attending. We very much appreciate all the volunteers in our village, and we certainly appreciate those that provide us some great consulting services. Again, the next time and date for the meeting is December 21st at 7:30. I'm assuming it is Zoom because I think the governor's emergency order wears out somewhere around the 13th or 14th of this month. But I can't imagine that he would not extend it at this point. So unless you hear otherwise, assume Zoom. And do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Roll call.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
I want to know why he went last this time as opposed to first every other time.
No, they give the easy votes to.
So by
to-
request,
to
when we're,
Mike to vote on first.
when we're voting on ordinances and resolutions, I've been alternating it, and when
We
it's
just
the
wanted to know
standard-
how everybody else was going to vote.
And I want to
Standard vote.
comment.
On
I want to
adjournment?
comment on the quality of Mr. Clayton's sound tonight. Much improved.
New microphone.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Good night, everyone.